Okay, let me see whether I can. Oh my word, this thing is playing with me today. Let me just go out. I'm sorry, madam. This thing is...
Okay, Ms. Malazi, is it possible for you to proceed with the presentation without the presentation being uploaded?
Yes, Chair, it's possible.
Okay, I think let us proceed with the presentation while Riet is trying to upload it on her side.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to start with the principles guiding the adjustment budgets. In passing this adjustment budget, we have actually evoked Chapter 31 of the Public Finance Management Act that allows the MEC for Finance in a province to table adjustment budgets in the provincial legislature. The Act does stipulate that there should be conditions that are applicable for the adjustment, and one of the conditions is that the appropriation of funds that have been made available in the province. Phumla has already indicated that we received additional funds, Chairperson. So based on that alone, we are allowed to pass an adjustment budget. The other condition which is applicable in this case is the shifting of funds between and within votes to follow transfer of functions. And then the utilization of savings under main division within a vote for the defrayment of excess expenditure under another main division within the same vote. That is applicable to the province, and the rollover of unspent funds from the preceding financial year. So based on the three conditions that I've mentioned, Chair, we are allowed to pass an adjustment budget. I'm going to talk to the 1920 conditional grant rollovers. What happens at the end of the financial year? Departments must request or apply for conditional grants rollover, and the condition attached to that application is that the department must show proof of commitment to the money. So at the end of 1920 financial year, Chairperson, we had about 36.4 million, which I'm on slide 4 yet. Yes. We had about 36.4 million, which remained unspent at the end of 1920. Departments were given an opportunity to apply for rollovers, and we received applications from departments worth about 22 million. National Treasury, because conditional grants are actually under the control of National Treasury, went through all the applications as submitted, and after review, an amount of 22.7 million was approved to come back to the province. It basically means, Chairperson, that we lost about 13.7 million back to the National Revenue Fund because departments could not prove commitment to those funds. The department that received rollovers, Honorable Chairperson, is Department of Education. They received about 15 million of the 20 million that remained unspent. The other department that received rollover of conditional grant is Department of Health. They received about 1 million of the 2.9 million unspent under conditional grants. Department of Culture, Sport and Recreation received 3.3 million of the 3.5 million which remained unspent. And Department of Social Development applied for a 2.5 million conditional grant rollover, and it was granted. So in total, out of the 36 million remained unspent, about 22 million was approved by National Treasury, and 13 million is going back to the National Revenue Fund. If I may talk to the 2021 adjustments, I'll go to slide 8, Riet. Slide 8 is talking to the on-revenue collection projections. If you remember very well, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we've got 3 envelopes that basically make up our budget. The main appropriation that we passed in March was made up of 3 envelopes. being the equitable share, the conditional grants, and on revenue. Whatever the province collects as on revenue is then allocated to departments to spend or to include in their spending plans. At the start of the main appropriation in March, we had projected that we're going to use about 1.3 billion of our own revenue collected to fund the provincial priorities. With the impact of COVID, we then realized that departments are not going to collect as initially planned and projected, mainly because activities right across the country had to shut down for a certain number of months, but in particular, some of the activities, even if when they came back, the coming back was slowed down and the uptake of these activities was also slowed down. So certain departments were requested to confirm if they will be able to collect the 1.3 billion as initially projected and planned. Unfortunately, certain departments came back to us and said, because of COVID, we will not be able to collect as planned. And those departments were Department of Agriculture, Department of Economic Development, Department of Public Works, Community Safety, which is mostly affected, and Department of Health. It then meant that Provincial Treasury now had to consider the impact of the COVID on the lockdown, and then we had to revise downwards our projected collection for own revenue. Unfortunately, that meant a 209 million projection downwards that we had to take into consideration when we're doing the adjustment for November. The reason we're forced to consider the downward projection is that at the end of the day, Provincial Treasury must pass a funded budget. Should we pass an unfunded budget, it basically means we'll have the numbers, but not the cash to match the numbers. And that is putting the whole province into a fix. Now, what we did was to say, although we're revising downwards by 209 million, we say to departments, please continue to explore the current and the new sources of revenue. Because if we do over-collect on this amount, it's money that still goes to the provincial revenue fund. It's money that can be allocated to departments in the next financial year. But this is a precaution that Provincial Treasury had to take. What follows on slide 9, Honorable Chair, is just an explanation to say why did the department scale the projected revenue collection. If you look, for example, the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, initial projection was at 121 million. They had to reduce that by about 38 million because Department of Economic Development and Tourism is being fed by own revenue collected by MER, Mpumalanga Economic Regulator, and they get their revenue from gambling and from betting. And when the casinos were closed, when they were opened, they were told to operate on a 50% capacity, and that affected the projection, and that necessitated the projection downwards as indicated. If you look at Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport, the fact that they missed on the Easter holidays with the transport regulation, there was no other public holiday other than the Christmas holiday where they could actually make up for those on revenue. Because under normal circumstances, we really depend on this department during the Easter and the Christmas holidays to impound transport vehicles that do not conform to standards. On slide 10, Honorable Chair, this is just an illustration that by downscaling by 209 million, we had to go to departments that benefit from own revenue allocation. 8 departments out of the 13 benefit from own revenue allocation, and we just worked out on a percentage scale the 209 million how it will affect those departments. So you'll realize on this slide that departments that don't benefit from own revenue, we did not cut their budget. We only cut departments that benefited from own revenue. What follows on slide 11, Pumla has already spoken to these monies, but just to indicate that our equitable share after the cut had to reduce from 44 billion to 42 billion, and our conditional grants after the cut and the new additions that she spoke to, we're actually standing at 7.9 billion. But all in all, if you look at that slide, Honorable Chair, it tells you that we had to lose 1.9 billion to on COE. I'll speak to those monies and how and why National Treasury had taken the money back. But we also gained under equitable share the 40 million that is going to social development, the 490 million that is going to Department of Education, and the 122 million is conditional grants that is going to various departments that I'll speak to in the other slides. But maybe to note there, we need to note that in terms of our contribution to the South African Airways 10.5 billion, the province lost 31 million of the conditional grants. There were reductions, Honorable Chair. If we go to slide 13, there were reductions to our equitable share of 1.9 billion rand. We had to contribute towards the 25 billion that National Treasury had suspended in terms of spending. The 25 billion was just provincial departments, and the balance of the money is coming from national departments. The reason we had to cut our budget by 1.9 billion, Honorable Chair, this money is coming from compensation of employees. As we are aware, national government and labor are in court at the moment, and the issue is the signed or the agreed upon salary increases that were signed in the 3-year agreement. What National Treasury or national government is saying at the moment is that they cannot afford those salary increases as agreed upon, and the provincial departments in a whole had to suspend 25 billion, of which our shares in Mpumalanga is 1.9 billion. I need to indicate that at this stage, this 1.9 billion doesn't affect warm bodies in terms of reduction of their salaries. This 1.9 billion is actually budgets that were set aside for salary increases in the current financial year. So since government, national government and labor are in court, the court case is going through on the 2nd of December. Should the court case be negative to government, this is money that National Treasury must give us back so that employees can get their salary increases. That 1.9 billion, Honorable Chair, was taken away from our baseline. On the same note, the President Employment Intervention also added money in the baseline. As indicated, they added 490 million. That money is going to Department of Education, and this is money for school paying schools which were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the schools were requested to save the school governing posts at fee-paying schools, and also to save should there have been salaries which were reduced due to non-payment of school fees. That's how the money will be used. But basically, all this 490 million, it's going to Department of Education. And this money is under equitable share. This is under equitable share, Chairperson. It basically means the province has control of this money. We're just urging the department to spend accordingly. And if they don't, they should be able to prove commitment so that this money is rolled back to them. There was another addition to the baseline And this addition, Chair, is the 40 million that Pumla has mentioned. This money is going to Department of Social Development and is for providing food relief in response to COVID. There were additions to conditional grants, Chairperson. I've already spoken to this. The conditional grants additions is about 154 million, and that is spread across different departments, Department of Health, mainly, Department of Roads and Transport, and Department of Social Development. The Department of Health got money for HIV, TB, malaria, and community outreach grant. These funds were added to the department to appoint community health workers and to buy backpacks for them and any other training or uniforms or PPEs that the community health workers and the outreach teams will need for the current financial year. Money was also added to the Department of Health to appoint enrolled nurses and assistant and auxiliary nurses. I think that money will be spent. The department is already on that activity. Money was added to social development, and the portion for this was to do top up for the salaries and the ECD facilities for additional duties of compliance and support. And then about 72 million was added to the Department of Roads and Transport. This is for the maintenance grant and for job creation through maintenance projects. These are the people that are usually employed to do road maintenance and on the roads. But what is nice about this addition is that this is a labor-intensive project. Therefore, it means many people will actually be employed and be able to survive the impact of COVID. On the opposite side of the Honorable Chairperson, there were reductions to the conditional grants. I've already spoken to that. The reductions came to about 31.8 million, and the reason for that, we had to contribute to the 10.5 billion, which was allocated to South African Airways. On slide 15, Chair, this is the 1.9 billion, the biggest cut that we had. This is just to explain how much each department's budget was cut. All 13 votes, unfortunately, had to endure the cut. There's no vote that was protected in implementing the 1.9 billion. What we just need to note there is that although we had increased our budgets for COE by 4.8%, 4.8% for the lower levels. We cut the budget with an average of about 6% or so. The cut has been proportional in terms of the voted funds and the allocation per vote. What we did here, Chairperson, we did not compromise the conditional grant funding. We only cut the money from equitable share. What follows on slide 16, Honorable Chair, is the impact of the cuts and additions that I've spoken to. What we see there is that the overall budget for the province was 53 billion after the July adjustment. We have actually gone down to 52 billion. So what is reflected there is per department or per vote, the impact of the cuts and additions that we did, and the final allocation that the MEC spoke to on his adjustment speech. At the end of the 1920 financial year, on slide 17, Honorable Chair, there was 128 million which remained unspent under equitable share. That 128 million, departments were given a chance to say, please indicate what are your pressures, what are the provincial priorities that needed to be funded. MTech hearings were held between the 6th and 8th of October, and that information was then used to feed in terms of recommendations and what the Budget and Finance Committee can consider to fund with the 128 million. We took about 3 options to the Budget and Finance Committee, which was held on the 3rd of November, and the Budget and Finance Committee approved option 2. What is contained in option 2, slide 18 of my presentation, is the money, the 128 million, how it was used to fund provincial priorities. 4 million share was allocated to Department of COGTA, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. This money is supposed to be used for Section 106 investigations in 3 municipalities, Bushbuckridge, Emalahleni, and Omazi, and they're supposed to implement, where applicable, the money will be used to implement Section 139 of the MFMA. 18 million was allocated to Department of COGTA. Again, this 18 million must be used for disaster relief. The Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environmental Affairs received 4 million for the use of to curb the foot and mouth disease. Economic Development and Tourism, on behalf of MTPA, received 10 million rand for the tourism recovery plan. I think this is very important, Chair, if we need our tourism to recover from the impact of COVID. So that 10 million will be used for that purpose. The Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport received 10 million rand. This is for the maintenance of the RGC. And Community Safety, Security and Liaison received 8.4 million for the intake at the Mpumalanga Traffic Training College, and the 3.6 million for security services for Dr. J.S. Moroka. On implementation of Section 139 at Dr. J.S. Moroka, we're all aware that there was commotion there and the administrator needed to be protected. Department of Culture, Sport and Recreation received 6 million. This is for the revitalization program of Kodwana Cultural Village. And then a further 26 million will be used for the Library Information Management System. 2.5 million is allocated to the department. This will be used in collaboration with the municipality for the TX Galaxy. This is a football team in the hope of revitalization of local economic development and sport tourism. The Department of Social Development received 30 million. This was a reaction to the court order that they received. A group of early childhood development NGOs actually went to court and demanded the 30 million because the Department of Social Development had not transferred money to those ECDs. But this is not only applicable to Mpumalanga, this was a nationwide high court order, and the impact in the province was 30 million rand, and that money had to be given to social development. A further 6 million came out for social development as well. This is for the ECD support package, which is just augmenting the money that National Treasury has given to the department. On that note, Honorable Chair, I'd like to say thank you. This is a summary of the bill. All the money that I spoke to actually reflect on the bill. I thought the PowerPoint will just make it easier. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Malazi, for that presentation. I think we as honorable members must be satisfied that whenever anything is presented from Provincial Treasury, it's presented in a manner that makes us understand properly without any questions. And again, that's exactly what you have done, highlighted the important points and gave us proper breakdown of what's happening in our province. That brings us to item 6, honorable members of the agenda, which is welcoming comments and inputs by our stakeholders. But in respect of the stakeholders that we do have with us, I want to check with Pretty Kosatu, Mr. Tabo Mokoena, are you still with us? Mr. Mokoena?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are clear. Welcome and thank you for giving us your time in this public participation, in this public hearing. I'm asking in respect of all the presentations that were made as a stakeholder, what is your inputs or comments?
Thank you. Let me give gratitude and acknowledge everybody present. From workers' perspective, our input will be based on ensuring that our budget adjustment and every effort that we are making, make sure that we assist in mitigating the current financial challenges and the economic challenges that we are confronted with. All what I want to emphasize, I have listened carefully to the two last presentations. My emphasis will be to say we need to work hard in ensuring that we assist the struggling sectors, particularly the sectors that were hardest hit by the pandemic. Your tourism sector, we need to find ways of stimulating that sector, because these are the sectors that are the economic drivers of the problem. These are the sectors that we need to assist them more. Further than that, what is critical is for us as the Federation to say we need to look deeper into our equity shares. You know, what I have listened to, I realized that there is a reduction mostly on the COE. And our view is to say if you reduce money on the COE, you are actually putting more pressure on those who are participating actively in the economic development. Because if you inject more money into the pocket of those that are actively participating in the mainstream economy, you will have a situation where there will be activism in the economy and you will have more income into your pocket because of the increase in the demand. So these are the things that I thought we should look into. But further than that, you need to say, if you look at your COE must speak more on operation. If you don't focus on the operational posts, you will spend more on higher posts. And when you spend more on higher posts, the higher posts do not necessarily assist us in achieving our objectives of providing quality service to our people. Now, we need to spend more on the operational and the lower level posts to ensure that we are able to achieve and push forward with the objective that we so much desire in every department. One thing that we also want to emphasize is the issue of financial prudence, proper financial management and accountability. These are issues that we really want to do. It's very worrying to say we spend more, but we get little in terms of accountability. We should be looking at a trend of ensuring that there is value for whatever we spend. And we look back as to how much prudent have we been efficient and active in making sure that whatever we spend for bring the desired outcomes. This is one thing that we need to look into very thoroughly. Of course, there are issues that, are of the national competence. For instance, your issue around your increase in the wage, in the salary increase. These are issues that I won't get much into. But I just want to emphasize one thing. To say, in areas where we have the capacity to unlock certain, and we are able to maneuver, and we are able to unlock certain challenges. For instance, I want to hit more. I want to emphasize more on that point. The point of ensuring that in our fiscal expenditure, let's look more on how much we can spend to ensure that we create more jobs, particularly at the lower level, so that we are able to relieve the burden in most of the institutions and sectors that are overburdened by the shortage of staff. I think those are the issues that as the Federation want to bring forth for consideration. I hope that my input will influence. Just look into whatever has been presented, and we will appreciate it if our input can find expression in the budget adjustment processes, so that we are able to advance labor peace. We are able to advance for stability and cohesion in all our different departments, because ours as the Federation is to advance for cohesion and stability. We believe that when there is labor peace and cohesion, you will be able to effectively achieve your objectives without hindrances. So we will really urge that let's look deeper into issues that might lead to confrontation and instability within and amongst ourselves as partners, and work hard to ensure that we alleviate such areas of discontentment, and be able to ensure that once we deal with those issues, we are able to advance for collective buy-in and for cohesion between the two partners. That is our point as the Federation, and we will always appreciate the opportunity given each time there are such sessions, because we believe that these sessions are quite important and they are quite meaningful in ensuring that we advance for the objectives and the mission of the province. We believe that this department it is the mainstay of advancing proper relations and stability in the entire province. I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mokoena, again for joining us and also for giving us your valued input. I think our coordinator will take notes of all the important points that you have indicated. While we were waiting for Salga to connect, we received a message indicating that they are having issues with respect of network. So can we maybe take Mr. Josiah Skosana from NAFCOC? Are you still online?
Yes, President.
No, Honorable Skusana, I'm asking for the stakeholder of NAFCOC.
My brother, okay. Enough.
Your brother. Yeah. Josiah, are you still online with us? Okay, are there any other stakeholders that wish to make any inputs or comments?
Chair, it looks like we lost COSAS. I don't see them online. However, Mr. Josiah is still online. Chair, can I maybe call him and ask if he can hear us from his side?
Yeah. Can I give you 1 minute to do that?
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Josiah, you are welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I'm a bit disappointed, you know. I was listening to all the work. Township business is nowhere placed in your budget, and there's no help.
Mr. Josiah,
small and medium.
network. Mr. Josiah?
Okay, there was some incoming call, but I dropped it.
Okay, no, thank you. You're much more clearer.
Fine. I know that small and medium business contribute a lot in employment in locals, but if government is not helping small and medium business to survive under these difficult conditions, then there would be no employment in the township, and township business, it's dead as we speak now, and I see no allocation for helping resuscitate township business. That's my biggest worry and my biggest disappointment.
Mr. Josiah, is that all your input from your side?
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you for your input. And our coordinator will also make a note of that. Thank you for also joining us today. Honorable members, it brings us to the next step on the agenda, which is responses and deliberations by the honorable members. Myself, I just want to query something from Ms. Malazi. Ms. Malazi, I think you have put it quite clearly to us to say that, whenever we have a presentation by yourself as well as the departments, one of the things is always that the departments is not spending. And I think it's quite disheartening to hear that we are giving back 13.7 million to the National Revenue Fund. But what I want to find out is you have indicated Department of Education, Health, Culture, Sports and Recreation, Social Development, all were allocated money from there. What I want to find out is applications were made to say this is the amount of money that we need. Did Public Works, Department of Public Works, not make an application also in respect of an allocation for that from that money that was going back? Public Works for me is a department that needs a lot of attention. When we're conducting our oversight visits, I think we are seeing firsthand that the condition of our provincial roads are very poor. And we also see where there is work that's supposed to be done, it's not getting done in the time period or the time framework that it should be. The other question which makes me concerned, or what I want to raise, is on the last adjustment we indicated that the coal haulage grant was taken away from Mpumalanga. And the last time we had a presentation from the department, the HOD indicated that they want to apply for that grant again to National Treasury. If you can maybe give us an indication on whether we can we provide for that grant to be brought back? Because the condition of our roads, especially where there's mines and where coal trucks are using, I mean, the main basis of the coal haulage grant is to repair the roads where there's coal trucks that's traveling on a day-to-day basis. So can we apply for that coal haulage grant to be allocated back to Mpumalanga Province? And I think I was quite clear in respect of the 10 million for the tourism recovery plan. Honorable members, I think when we have the department come before us, or the entity, MTPA, it would be nice to find out in respect of this money, to keep track of it. Also to try to push departments in respect of spending. Okay, honorable members, I think I am covered. Mr. Josiah, just to indicate your concern in respect of townships not being able, or small businesses not being given the necessary support. I think it's also a concern for me. When we had our minister here for tourism yesterday, one of the things she says is that in Mpumalanga Province, we are lacking in respect of skills development. So I think as honorable members, we must also ensure that in all the departments, we don't only provide jobs, but we also increase the skills of the local people. Okay, let me welcome honorable members to make any comments as well.
Thank you, Chair. Can I come in? It's Honorable Mlombo here.
Yes, Honorable Mlombo, and then I see Honorable Weber has also raised his hand. Honorable Weber, you will follow.
And I too.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Kusana. You will follow after Honorable Weber. Honorable Makaringe, do you also want to come in? Okay, Honorable Chief, you can proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to appreciate the presentations from the two presenters, Ms. Sibia and Ms. Milazi. And I will come back to their presentations, but I want to also thank our stakeholders that have joined and made a very, very comprehensive, well thought, and informative contributions, and very important contributions. Chair, I would like to start with the two stakeholders, because if you look at the contribution from COSATU and NAFCOC, they are dialectically interlinked. They speak to each other in terms of the main objective and the content and the form of their contribution, because it all speaks to how, in view of the impact of COVID-19, how do we begin to sort of resuscitate our economy to sort of ensure that we grow our economy and sort of ensure that we have got programs in place to ensure that there is job creation and poverty alleviation. I must indicate that as these honorable members, we serve in the economic cluster. And in that economic cluster, you have got the key departments, like the Department of Economic Development, the Department of Agriculture, than the Department of Public Works, which are at the core of ensuring that there is economic growth and economic activism in the province. And we have requested, especially from the Department of Economic Development, in order to ensure that there is a recovery of our economy. We have requested that department to sort of develop a provincial economic recovery plan. And that provincial economic plan, part of its aspects is to ensure that there is an informed and budgeted plan, and a plan that would be able to be implemented that responds to the questions that Mr. Skosana from NAFCOC has raised as to how do we get in terms of the small and medium businesses, ensure that we resuscitate them, we fund them accordingly, we support them consistently and continuously so that they are able to regenerate the economy in the township and rural areas where they are based and be able to create the necessary jobs that we so dearly need as a province. But that recovery, that provincial economic recovery plan that we have requested from the Honorable Emmy Singomane would also speak and respond positively to the issues that Mr. Mkwena from COSATU have raised. The issue of ensuring that we have got a structured plan that identifies the key job creators in the province in terms of which sectors should we target if we are to create jobs in the province. And also it will target the departments and the sectors that have been adversely affected by the COVID-19, as correctly indicated by Mr. Mkwena from COSATU. So I'm just raising this point to assure and take our stakeholders into confidence that their input have in fact made us aware that we are on track in terms of ensuring that we put programs in place to respond to COVID-19, and that all the issues that they have raised here would be taken care of by the economic cluster, especially the Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, as well as the social cluster, because in that social cluster we have got the Department of Education, the Department of Health, the Department of Sport and Recreation, the Department of Social Development, of which in terms of the two presentations, those departments are adversely affected. Let me come back then, Chair, and quickly respond to the two presentations, especially on the division of revenue. All I can say on the division of revenue is that the engagement between labor and government in terms of whether the 25.3 billion it's retained by government or it's released to the public sector workers should in fact be fast-tracked, because you know, as I know, that for you to get the highest production, whether it's in a public sector or whether it's in a private sector, you need workers that are happy, you need workers that are motivated. So the slow and delay the finalization of this matter would have a direct impact in terms of the activism, the productivity of both, especially the public sector employees in the different departments, and would have a direct negative impact to ourselves as people who are supposed to oversee the pace of government and the implementation of programs, because some of these programs would in fact be delayed. We have seen in the oversight visits that we have taken that this matter has got an impact, because some of the projects which were supposed to have been implemented long ago, are still delaying. So the point that I'm driving home is that the sooner this matter is resolved, whether it is resolved positively or negatively, would assist us to ensure that we get finalized, we get finality on this matter, and the workers know whether they are going to get the money or not going to get the money, and accept the reality that will prevail at that particular time. The second matter which I want to raise here is that in terms of the allocation to local government, I think the 10.3, the 10.5 billion that has been reduced, it's too much an amount. But however, whatever we have, the 87 million that has been given for bulk infrastructure, especially for the Likwa municipality, the money that has been allocated to the Likwa municipality. We know that municipality has got a lot of challenges. It is amongst the top 5 municipalities in the province that are struggling to ensure that there is proper good governance, financial governance in terms of looking after and their expenditure. So we need to be closer to these municipalities, ensure that whatever money is allocated to them, it's used accordingly. I can't agree more with the chairperson of the portfolio committee in terms of the rollovers. It is unacceptable that nearly 12-point-something billion had to go back to the provincial treasury. But I think it's an eye-opener, Chair. It is an eye-opener to us that as we meet with these departments, we must have a targeted focus. And one of the targeted focus, of which it must be compulsory as they account to us on quarterly basis. One of the targeted focus is how are you able to spend the conditional grants that have been allocated to your department, the percentage of the usage of those conditional grants on quarterly basis. Because, Chair, year after year, when these presentations are done, we talk about billions and billions of rands that goes back to the provincial treasury. I think we must reach a stage where we say it all have to end here. We draw a line here. From this financial year, all departments would be required to ensure that conditional grants that are given to them, they are being spent accordingly, especially municipalities. Conditional grants that are, because they are in the implementation side of delivery. There is no reason why, because in most municipalities, the level of service delivery is poor, but they've got money and they do not use that money. I should think our stakeholders also, they must push us as the legislatures to ensure that we push these departments to ensure that all monies allocated to them are being spent. 12-point-something billion, to me, it's a lot of money to be allowed just to go back to the provincial treasury. But I think beyond this, we need to get we need to use this presentation to go back to those departments, although the money has already gone back, but they still need to account to us. How did it happen that the money goes back to provincial treasury? How did it happen that they did not spend this money? My next point, which I think would in fact be the last point, it's on the monies that have been allocated to different departments, the grants that have been allocated to different departments, like your Department of Education to employ the assistant teachers, your Department of Health to deal with a number of issues, the Department of Public Works. I just want to emphasize that now that we know that those conditional grants have been has been released, they are still new. They still need to be used. Those portfolio committee chairpersons who are leading those departments, it should be our task from the beginning of the deposition of the allocation that we follow up on that allocation and make sure that those monies are used. Those children are employed as assistant teachers. I know that some provinces have gone a long way in terms of ensuring that they employ those teachers in the Department of Health. Make sure that those workers, those young people are employed to sort of ensure that come the end of this financial year, most of these monies must in fact have been used. Thank you very much. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Weber.
Chairperson, unfortunately, I've got to raise a few concerns. First of all, I want to mention the fact that our budget has been effectively reduced by 1.4 billion, which is a small amount if you consider the fact that our budget is still way beyond 50 billion per year. And the problem I have is that most of this budget comes from national. And the question is, how is this budget being financed? It is mostly being financed by borrowed money. The debt burden on a national level is increasing rapidly. And therefore, we must be concerned about the fact that one or other time we will reach the ceiling. And that will mean, it will effectively mean that our budget is going to be drastically reduced. Not by 1.4 billion, but much more than 1.4 billion. And I just want to caution that we must be aware of the fact that hard times will come to us, and we must be ready for that. Then, on a specific note, I want once again to agree with the Honourable Chairperson about the coal haulage grant in the Bethel area. We must actually do an oversight visit there and look at what is happening there. The coal haulage grant has been withdrawn, and I think that was a short-sighted move. And I want to plead with everybody that we must do everything that we can do to reintroduce the coal haulage grant in that area, because if you look at what is going on there, we have reason to be concerned. And thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Weber. I think we will take note of that Bethel Road that you want to do the oversight on and try to raise it with our researchers as well. Honorable Skosana.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Let me call honorable members, our honorable stakeholders, and our administration. Honorable Chairperson, I welcome the two presentations that we received, and in some instances, I was covered by the latter speakers, particularly our Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Chairperson, we all know that the economy of the country, including our province, is affected by COVID-19. And whatever we discuss in relation to finances, our economic recovery plan, it must be clear. And all the departments, they must assist in the economic recovery, not only one department. It should be a broader plan that is mastered by the Department of Finance and Economic Development. And all the departments, when they speak, they must show us how do they participate in the economic recovery. Number two, I should think some of the factors that can assist us in the economic recovery and also job losses that we have experienced during COVID-19. The industrialization, it must be fast-tracked by the Department of Economy. The small businesses, as echoed by my brother Skosana from NAFCOP, is also important. And this Department of Economy must show us a clear guidelines of how to deal with the small economy. If they've got a plan, all the time when they present, that plan should reflect so that everybody can really understand the plan of small businesses and also job creation. On the issue of rollovers, Chairperson, as in the scope, we were dealing with fruitless, irregular, and wasteful expenditure. But I should think even this one of rollovers will adopt it one day. Because I see there is a lot of money that is going back to Treasury nationally. And when you want to utilize it, you must apply. Sometimes if you fail to apply on time, you'll never get that money. And this rollovers, Chairperson, is delaying the progress in service delivery. It can't be a rollover. Why can't we spend money for its purpose? And I must say, Chair, every each budget is attached to an item for service delivery. Then why rollovers? I should think it's a matter that we must engage on with all departments when we meet them in the committees to deal with this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Skusana. Honorable Makaringe has indicated that he has left the meeting because he has another commitment to attend to, another meeting that was supposed to start at 10. So I should think all inputs by honorable members have been raised, and maybe ask Ms. Malaki to address those questions and comments. Ms. Malaki, can you come in?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'll address some comments, some questions. I'll start with the honorable, the gentleman from the Federation. Just to say, most of it were comments which we really appreciate, I must say, in terms of the reduction of COE and putting more pressure on official in terms of numbers available to do the work. I must say that this is something that we are aware of, and as a province we're trying to work on. But just to say, the issue on the areas of spending, that's one point that I would like to stress again, because what we're saying to departments is that make sure that the rand, the 1 rand, actually you get more for it. In the economic climate and the fiscal framework that we are currently in now, unfortunately, that's something that all departments must live with, to say they need to get more for each rand spent. Honorable Labour has indicated that these are difficult times. That is true. We're expecting cuts in the next financial year. So unless departments are involved in terms of getting value for money in each rand that is spent, we're not going to make an impact in dealing with the pandemic or the impact of COVID-19. We've noted your points there on areas that we need to unlock for more jobs in the lower level. That is something that we stand with, because if we have more people that are actually running around and doing the work, then it gets easier for the manager to actually manage whatever government activity is being implemented. So we really like to welcome your input. We value your input. They're important to us. We take them in our processes when we're doing the budget adjustment and the main appropriation. Thank you, sir. Mr. Josiah, Mr. Kosana, had a very good point, Chairperson, on the small and medium business in the township. I need to indicate that we must remember that the National Department on Small Business, when COVID started, actually had a vehicle for such type of businesses in the township. What is important here is the awareness in the township business area to say, are you aware that the National Department has come up with this type of vehicle to help you deal with the impact of COVID? But then we need to understand to say helping the small and medium businesses, especially in township, goes further than the COVID time. But I just want to say thank you to Honorable Mlombo. He has touched a bit on this topic and he has added value to the discussion. Just to say the 10 million, which is the tourism plan that we allocated to economic development, might come and help these people. At this stage, I cannot confirm, Honorable Chair, because I don't know what are the specific in terms of the plans and implementation by MTPA of this 10 million. But just to indicate that the department itself, Economic Development and Tourism, has something in place that it wants to implement towards small and medium businesses in the townships. In terms of details and implementation, is a department that will be able to lay out for you. But we do welcome that comment, Mr. Josiah Kosano. The chairperson raised an important point in terms of the 13.7 million. Unfortunately, that money it has to be surrendered to the National Revenue Fund. National Treasury will allocate as it seems fit. That means we don't have control over the 13.7 million. We can't claim it as ours. But then the question was, did Public Works put in a rollover, an application rollover? If I take you to slide 4, Honorable Chairperson, these are the departments listed there that did application. If we zoom in directly to Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport, you'll see that 2.2 million remained unspent by the department at the end of the financial year. Unfortunately, the department did not put in a application for a rollover. Therefore, they were not considered if these funds can be given back to them. So they lost that 2.2 million to the National Revenue Fund. The coal haulage issue is a sore point at this point because the province has benefited from the coal haulage. And our basis when this money was motivated was that the province generates electricity for the whole country, but the road damage is only in Mpumalanga. And this money, when initially it was allocated to provinces, only 2 provinces out of the 9 benefited from coal haulage tag, and that is in Mpumalanga and I think Northwest. Started in 2012, as we all are aware, but the thing is that when it started, it had a time frame. These 2 provinces, Mpumalanga and Northwest, were given a time frame to say, we'll be funding you for the damage that is caused by the truck from 2012 to a specific time. Unfortunately, that time came to 2019, and in 2019, the sector itself, Public Works, Roads and Transport, was informed by National Treasury that the time is up to benefit from the coal haulage funding. This is mainly because the other 7 provinces that were not benefiting from the coal haulage also indicated that they have trucks that damage their route. So what happened, what National Treasury did at the time of discussion with the sector, it was that the labeling of coal haulage grants was taken away. The funds were not particularly taken away. The funds were made available in the other conditional grants and equitable share. But what National Treasury did with that funding was to say, instead of saying this is specifically from Mpumalanga and Northwest, these funds will then be put in an envelope that says this is performance. If you perform on your provincial road maintenance grant budget, then you'll be liable for additional funds. That is the performance grant. So the money, although it had a labeling of coal haulage, it was included under equitable share and the provincial road maintenance grant, and the department still, upon proper recording, reporting, and performance, they were eligible to claim from the performance grant as indicated. But that's not the only avenues. Those are not the only avenues that the Department of Public Works has. National Treasury has come up with the BFI opportunity, and I know our provincial public works has applied for the BFI. So should that come through, we'll see a big injection of funds under the provincial road maintenance grant for the province. We're expecting the outcome to be out before the main appropriation for 21-22 financial year. But the fact that the coal haulage is not there in terms of labeling, departments can still do the maintenance. They can still plan and design for roads that are affected by trucks. So it's up to the department to either prioritize those roads or take the funding elsewhere. But I think they should actually distribute the funds evenly and also cover the roads which were previously covered by the coal haulage grant. Honorable Mlombo raised an important question or comment on the provincial economic plan. I know that is something that the Department of Economic Development is busy with, but it's also true to say each department can make its contribution towards the provincial economic plan, because we are experts in different areas. I think if each department is committed to its area of expertise and does everything it should, the impact should be obviously on the improvement of the economy for the province. The issue of the wage dispute between national government and labor is a serious one. I agree with Honorable Mlombo. We need to fast track the finalization, the output of that, the outcome of that dispute, whether negative or positive. At least we would have jumped that, we would have gone through that process. Then we know how to move from there. As I indicated, Honorable Mlombo, the court case is going in front of the judge on the 2nd of December. So we're expecting an outcome there. So we'll see what comes out of court on the 2nd of December and how National Treasury and Labour will work towards that. And the rollover of 13.7 million, it's true, that money goes back to the National Revenue Fund. We're losing claim over that money, we're losing control, it's no longer ours. But then what we need to look at with this 13.7 million is that departments must be urged that you must prove commitment. Everybody knows that the year end is 31st March, but some departments get to 31st March still without committing those funds. Now, if you cannot prove commitment, National Treasury cannot accept your application. So it's up to the department to plan and prove commitment. But additional to that, the National Treasury has given us additional funding. We just hope that the departments are ready to implement the additional funding that we received, and they're able to prove commitment in end of March. Honorable Weber, the net impact of the reduction, it is 1.4 billion. The National Treasury, unfortunately, has taken most of the cut from COE, but some of the money is actually coming from conditional grants, as I indicated, about 31 million of that money. It is true that we're facing hard times. If honorable members read the papers, was it Saturday or Sunday? Actually, Moody's has downgraded the economy now to junk. The implication of that is that it will be more expensive to borrow money from the financial markets. This doesn't matter whether it's the international markets or it's the local markets. The fact that our economy is classified as junk, it means our borrowing costs will go high, and not all the players in the financial market will actually be interested in borrowing South Africa any money. The thing that we need to work with is that as we start in financial year 21-22, there's about 4.3 billion cuts on our budget. So planning and implementation at this stage is very important, and government works on a 3-year cycle. Departments mustn't plan for 1 year; they must plan for a 3-year cycle to come out of the hard times that we expecting. I've spoken to the issue of the coal haulage grant. I think I'm not going to repeat them, Honorable Weber. Other honorable members have raised the issue and I've spoken to it. Honorable Skosana, I've spoken to the issue of the economic recovery. I agree with you. All departments must actually assist in the economic recovery in terms of good performance in their areas of expertise or areas of responsibilities. In terms of the rollover, the 13.7 million that is going back to National Revenue Fund, I agree with you completely. We should actually be having no rollovers. Only if departments spend according to plans and they spend in time, there shouldn't be rollovers. But national government is saying, should there be a need for a rollover, make sure the funds are committed. And that's where most of the departments cannot prove commitment, and then we end up losing the money. Honorable Chair, I think I've covered all the questions. If there's a question that I did not respond to, it's not intentional, I will respond to it. But I have my colleague, Ms. Tobile Makwaza, to help me with the responses. Thank you.
No, thank you, Ms. Malazi, again. Once again, you have highlighted all the questions that the honorable members have had. But honorable members, you know, in respect of Ms. Malazi's response, to say that Public Works, Department of Public Works did not apply for that 2.2 million? Yeah, the 2.2 million that they sent back, they did not make an application to be awarded that money back. When the department comes before us, I think it should be a strong question that we put to the department as well as to the Honorable MEC. Honorable members, do you have any follow-up questions, or are we covered?
Chairperson, I just want to make sure. The coal haulage grant has been withdrawn. Did I hear correctly that most of that we are going to get back in another form?
Okay, thank you, Honorable Weber. Honorable Mnombo, I see you also want to come in.
Yes, Chair. I wanted to indicate that I'm fine. The responses from Provincial Treasury, I think they are comprehensive. They suffices. But the ball is in our court. There's people who have been mandated to oversee the functioning of all these departments. that we go back and ask our researchers that in their analysis of this department, because sometimes honorable members, they get very busy, we read a lot of report and fail to sort of capture these issues, especially on the usage of conditional grants. Just want to emphasize that our researchers should take it into consideration that we have raised this matter, we are concerned about this matter in their analysis as they brief us in terms of the performance of departments. This must be a permanent standing matter that they would have to brief us and ensure that their questions also takes care of the expenditure in terms of conditional grants. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mlombo. Honorable Sosana, are you covered?
Yes. Hello. Can I just be excused? I've got another meeting.
Yes, Mr. Mokoena, you may be excused. And once again, thank you for joining.
Skosana, not Mokoena.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was speaking to Tabo. Okay, yeah, but thank you. The inputs that you made, we will take it forward and submit it in our report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Skosana?
I'm covered, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Malazi, can you maybe just give us a quick response to Honorable Weber being unsure about the coal haulage grant?
Thank you, Chairperson. What I indicated is that when the coal haulage grant envelope was stopped, it's just the envelope that was stopped. The money was then given to the public works sector as part of the provincial roads maintenance grant, and a portion of that was put away in the performance grant. It basically means if the provincial department performs very well in its conditional grant, provincial roads maintenance grant, it's eligible for further funding as a thank you that you performed very well and you were able to report as required by the conditional grant framework. And that's why I said, Honorable Weber, that doesn't stop the department in allocating part of that funding to the coal haulage network. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malazi. I see Mr. Mokoena, Tabo Mokoena, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. The point I wanted to raise is to say we may not be exhaustive of all the issues we wanted to raise here, but I really want to urge that we have a model, a recovery model, that will start to speak to the real challenges we are confronted with in the province, so that we are able to resolve on most of the challenges that remain outstanding and unresolved. There are a number of issues that we need to make input on. We will really plead that let's develop a draft model which will look into how much impact has the resection had on our provincial economy, and then we be able to make the necessary inputs and recommendation on how we can mitigate the challenges brought by the recession. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mokoena. I think all our inputs and all inputs made by all stakeholders will be taken note of. But I see our manager for economic cluster, Ms. Prudence Kola, is with us. Prudence, if you can address our researchers in respect of what Honorable Mlombo said, and take it forth that they, when the department does come before us, in respect of all the performance plans, that what we raised here is taken into consideration. Okay, honorable members, we come now to item number 8 on the agenda, which is the way forward. Like I said, all inputs that we made, let me also assure all the stakeholders that the inputs will be incorporated into the committee reports and the negotiating mandate that will be sent to NCOP tomorrow. Item number 9 is closure, and thanks. Again, thank you to all stakeholders who did join us today and who participated in this public hearing. As it was indicated at the beginning, we are live. We were live on Facebook. So whatever comments or inputs that the public wants to make, those inputs and comments can be submitted directly to the legislature on the email address that Pretty did put there, or comments can be also submitted on the link. Yeah, in respect of all the procedures, all legal procedures were followed, and I feel like this public hearing was presented on the correct platform. Let me also thank our Advocate Buyile, and also Pumla for your presentation, as well as Gladys, Ms. Malazi. I always say you are one person who makes us understand those figures in less complicated manner, and thank you for that, and thank you always for your support to this committee. Thank you to our legislature staff for facilitating this process, as well as thank you to honorable members for joining and participating. The meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You.